Hey there! Today I'm going to be sharing a lot of the learnings that emerged from the Informational Interview Challenge that we did in the collective. So a foundational aspect of your success deploying the grant writing unicorn method is conducting informational interviews. In those conversations, you draw out, does the person you're speaking with have a need that you can help serve them? And so we have a lot of training on that in the course. That's the whole point of phase one. It's how you get paid to do a funding strategy and pay for your investment in the collective. But people were getting hung up on a couple of things, like the conversations weren't quite going the way they wanted them to, or they weren't really drawing out if there was a need. They just felt like they were spinning their wheels. Maybe they were actually really hung up on fear of reaching out, doing cold outreach, and just being too afraid to press send. There was a lot of things that were feeling like these roadblocks were sort of piling up. And so we did this challenge to just blast those roadblocks out of the way so your progress this year could just be wildly successful, because it's literally the most important activity you do. It is the keystone in the archway for your success. So in this video, I'm going to be running through some of the key takeaways that we learned from that experience, showing you what I learned when I audit my own interviews and what you can do to make sure that you're having the best quality conversations that you can and creating opportunities for yourself. All right, with that, let's go. Alrighty, let's do a refresh of how all of this works. How does the organic networking framework help you create opportunities for yourself? So it's the tried and true method to find paid work opportunities, leveraging informational interviews, and you don't have to have prior grant writing experience. And if you're not up to speed with this method, because I do talk about it a lot, please go watch the webinar that'll be linked below, because that is a robust, super detailed training on how all of these pieces fit together. So what is an informational interview? It's where you have a genuinely curious conversation with someone that interests you to learn more about them and their organization and really draw out, do they have some pain points, some struggles, a need to understand what grants they should be pursuing? Do they need a grant writer? And if so, you can present yourself to be the solution for that. Now, there's a 5-step checklist. This is all within the course. It's all phase one. But it's developing the contact list, conducting outreach, preparing for the conversation, having the actual interview, and then, of course, follow-up. So that is the super high-level overview of how the organic networking framework works. Now, I want to show you how what we ended up synthesizing from this experience. So I'll share this. Approximately 30% of the interview requests that were sent out, because about 100 people did this challenge, so we got all the data of the before-after experience, will result in an interview. So, and on top of that, not every proposal, when they ask for a proposal, necessarily results in getting accepted and paid for. I actually just had a conversation with one of our unicorns that's crushing it. She, in 1 year, did $55K in revenue, right? And literally from zero to hero, she'd never written a grant before. Totally cool. And she was sharing, she did 24 informational interviews, 11 resulted in proposals, 9 came back signed. And so you can see that every interview does not correlate to being an immediate opportunity. And that's the whole point. Not everyone you talk to has a pain point you can solve for, but they probably might in the future know someone that does. Or as this woman told me, the unicorn, she said actually some of those that she had given a proposal to in the past came back and said, okay, we're ready to go after this now. Right? So do recognize that you have to adjust your expectations. If you're only doing one interview and it doesn't turn into something, that is unacceptable. You need to just keep hustling, right? Dig in deep. That's how this goes. I did 45 informational interviews when I graduated college and was trying to figure out what to do with my life, right? And those are what became my opportunities that ultimately led to a full-time grant writing job. So this is definitely a numbers game where the more you do, the better you get at it, the more opportunities you will create for yourself. Okay, so I want to show you what the bonus training looks like that we built inside the course. So we have all these bonus trainings. These get added to over time as we find we need to have an expert brought in and teach about those. Okie dokie. So let's have a look. So here is the recap. We run through the model again, have everyone go back to phase one and refresh on how the organic networking framework works. And then we did looked through a bunch of audits. I encourage you to record your interviews. And that's not unusual now because the world is pretty used to at this time attending recorded Zoom calls. So tell them it's so that you don't have to be ferociously taking notes and you can just listen. So we had a lot of really, really interesting, just learned so much from seeing each other's work. And now everyone can go in and listen to each other and see like, oh, okay, I see what not to do. I see what to do, etc. Probably, I also did this process with everyone, right? So I went and did a bunch of informational interviews for in line with, like, as if I was trying to get grant writing gigs. I emailed from my personal email so they wouldn't know who I was. And also I did it for just people that I'd wanted to meet that I thought were awesome. Like, I've wanted to meet the CEO of this native corporation that I really like in Alaska. I've wanted to meet this woman. I think she's such a badass, for lack of a better word. She's so strong. But I never did it. One excuse after another. So I finally did it. We had the most amazing phone call. Honestly, I bet that I go on a road bike with that woman this summer. So it was totally worth it. All right. So I ended up playing through, here's the interview, and I would pause myself. So let's see. Where was this? Is this the right interview? Wasn't that make me look great? I didn't know I was taking this in the car. But anyway, you'll see here where I added a lot of commentary, like I'm talking too much. I need to cue back into a question. So this is where I give looking at your own work, you will do the most learning. Like auditing your own conversations, it's brutal, right? So this was for a super small community in Southeast Alaska, Tenakee Springs. I literally picked them like out of a hat because I liked that community. In fact, I just pulled up the photos from there. So a long time ago, right before COVID hit, I think, I organized a friend's trip to Tenakee Springs. You take this ferry from Juneau over there, and it was a bunch of friends. It was so nice. It was February actually, but really fun. We kind of had this outdoor kitchen and beautiful weather. It had snowed a bunch. And what makes this town cool is that they have a thermal bath in the center of town, and almost all of these houses are dry. There's no running water in their homes, but so there's men hours and there's female hours, and you can go enjoy these thermal baths, which look very scary on the inside, but they're very lovely. So that's the whole group. It was so fun. We found rope swings. We went on epic hikes. We met the mayor of Tenakee. We just had a great time. It was really, really lovely. Met some locals that we stayed with. The whole thing. It was so fun. And then we took a float plane out of there. So you get the idea. If you have any connection to any community, it can just be really nice to start with a nonprofit you've already worked with, or one that's a blast from the past, or some community you care about. Like, don't get so hung up on it having to be a super, super cold lead. Like, start within the sphere of your network with some organization or community that you have a touch point with. All right. So that's that. I think the biggest thing that were the real takeaways that I want to conclude with are this. Quantity matters. So you need to be doing more informational interviews than you think. And I want you to have some grit and perseverance. So get with it. Number 2, record your interviews, or you'll never get way better at it. Now, this is a big thing that's huge inside the collective, is we give you the script literally of what questions to ask and how to really fine tune that, how to optimize your conversation. This is truly a skill. This is a skill that serves you whether you decide to be a grant writer or not, or you just want to land a new job and never have to apply for something crappy ever again, right? Like, I am more passionate about this than even grant writing, because when I discovered how this worked right after college, it changed everything. I was so desperate for work, graduating in the thick of the economic recession, that I was applying for jobs at Pita Pit. And keep in mind, I actually am gluten-free, and I couldn't even eat a pita, which was probably a huge part of the compensation there, right? So that's how desperate I was to get a job. And once I learned how this whole process worked, I thought, oh, I am never going back. I am always going to use this method, the organic networking framework, to create opportunities for myself. And I want you doing the exact same thing. It's how you have purpose and joy in what you do. Okay, and then what was the third point I wanted to make? Third point is your intent is key. If your intent is to get something, it's probably not going to go that well for you. Your intent has to come from a place of genuine curiosity and desire to serve and help. And when that exists, then you don't try to force yourself into something. A lot of times people feel like they get hung up on, but I feel like I have to sell or transition to a sales, and I'm not comfortable with selling myself and all that crap. And I'm like, it's not. You literally help them with a problem, And that's very values aligned. And if they don't have a problem, then don't sell anything, right? So only help an organization if they need it, right? So that would be the third point I'd like to make. The rest of the debrief from that challenge is within the bonus training. So if you are watching this as a collective member, be sure to go watch that. Those are in there. They're amazing. Lots of learnings. And we'll continue to add audited interviews as we go. Okay, that's it. If you have any other questions, feel free to add that in the comment. If you liked this video, hit like and subscribe if you don't already, and we'll catch you next time. See you later.